Welcome to Life Experiences with JessicaAlbert13. I've never really been one to broadcast my life on the internet, but I've decided I would like to share some of what I've been through with you guys in hopes of helping someone who's struggling with something similar. Because no matter how difficult or horrible life is, every ordeal is survivable, and you walk away a little smarter and stronger. So for my first topic, I've picked a bit of a doozy. I'm going to talk about mental illness, how I've struggled with mental illness, how it affected me in high school, and basically kind of what it's like to be manic bipolar for those of you who don't understand what bipolar is. So let's get started. When I was 16, I had a mental breakdown in high school around finals, the end of May. The stress of school, I was in pre-AP classes, I was struggling to maintain a straight A average. Social life was getting to me too. A lot of my friends were growing up and facing challenges of their own. So all of that pressure kind of just built up and I fell apart. I stopped sleeping. I became very, very paranoid for some reason. I thought everyone was talking about me, everyone was out to get me, and I wasn't making any sense. I would just talk a mile a minute, and my brain was just overheated. I felt like my brain was literally on fire, would be a very apt description. My parents and teachers didn't know what to do with me at first because I had always been like the perfect student. I never really got into discipline troubles. I always made good grades. I was always the quiet, bookish kid. So when I started to have panic attacks in public and start to just cry randomly, teachers and my parents were really freaked out. Finally, my parents were told to admit me to a mental hospital, and that was a very scary first experience. I was in a mental hospital with violent children, children who attacked their parents and pulled knives in school. And I was just a frightened little 16-year-old who cried at the drop of a hat. Doctors didn't know what to make of me at first, so they went with the easiest route, like what is the family history of mental illness? Which could be a whole other video, because it turns out my mom lied. Oh, there's no mental illness in my family, we're all perfect. No. My dad was like, oh, my mother was schizophrenic when she was alive, and at the end of her life, she took Haldol to deal with her schizophrenia. So, psychiatrist at the time was just like, okay, kid's schizophrenic, stamp. And I was not happy. The doctors put me on antipsychotics, antidepressants. I was actually taking 4 pills at one time. I wouldn't. It was awful. The antidepressants added weight. At my heaviest, I was 180. The antipsychotics slowed my brain down so much, I was like a zombie. I I didn't feel like myself. I felt terrible. And I thought, oh my God, I'm schizophrenic. I'm not a person anymore. I'm just an illness. I don't deserve to be around normal people. I don't deserve to have friends. I don't deserve to have a family. I don't deserve to ever get married or be happy because I'm sick and I'll just spread my illness. I deserve to be locked up. My friends at the time, some of them were understanding, some of them feared me, even though I was never physically abusive towards anyone. The only person I ever hurt was myself. I would verbally lash at people though. I would be angry. I was angry at the time. So that scared some of them away. My online friends were probably the worst. Some of them took to bullying me. Some of them went on public forums and would tell everyone that I was crazy and to avoid me. So that was very hurtful at the time because I was on back then when I was a teenager, I wasn't very social in school, so I would go online for social activity. on like a Dragon's Den forums. There was that stupid Dragon Quest headquarters for a while. And when people started to bully me online, it really hurt. I kind of ran away. I didn't want to be online anymore. I was like, people are just going to make fun of me. I'm not going to want to participate then. So high school really was a difficult period for me. 10th grade, I was admitted into the hospital again for attempted suicide. I was cutting myself and taking pills in an attempt to overdose and kill myself. Now, cutting is a hard subject. Some people cut and feel a weird euphoria. Some do it for sexual gratification. I cut myself as a sort of brand. I cut myself to punish myself. I sort of wore my scars like a tattoo that said, I'm sick, stay away from me. You see these scars? I'm crazy, keep away. But cutting always hurts. I never felt any kind of high from cutting. It was very painful. I would cut myself and then go crying to my mother, like, what am I doing? What's wrong with me? And at first, my mother was very strong. She was able to handle it, and she kind of went through something similar with her first kid, Zach, so she was like, I'll just find her help and she'll be okay. But around 11th grade, my mom was like, nothing's working. Emma's not going to get any better. She got very depressed as a result. Whenever I became suicidal, she would say, oh, just kill me too. Let's go in the garage, turn all the cars on, and just breathe in the fumes and die. But luckily, my dad was able to remain steadfast, and when I went crazy, it would drive mom crazy, and dad was the only one who could keep us together. But high school, for a long time, I thought I would never graduate. Like elementary, middle school, I was a straight A student. I would get in the paper for making the best grades. Then suddenly I just fell. My grades plummeted. I stopped going to school. I was too depressed to wake up. I would just stay in bed and cry all day. So I thought, I'm going to be a high school dropout. I'm going to drop out of high school and kill myself. That's what my future holds. That's what I thought back then. But fortunately, I knew a girl. She was a friend of mine in middle school. She contacted me and she said, there's a special school for children with social phobia and mental illness that you could try going to. It was called Turning Point. It was kind of a school started for pregnant teenagers and teenagers with discipline issues, but then it kind of branched out and started accepting other people. People like me who couldn't handle going to the regular high school, and people who wanted their high school diploma but weren't able to attend high school. Like some of my classmates were kids in their like 20s. They didn't want a GED anymore. They wanted a real diploma. It was the same curriculum as a regular high school. It was just a very small school, and our classes were online. Most of our classes were online. Some were taught by teachers. And there was even kind of like an elective class, astronomy, and I signed up for that. That was really fun. Kind of introduced me back into the social circle. Because for a couple of months, I just like shut down. But all throughout those 4 years, I was in and out of hospitals, mental hospitals and regular hospitals. The medication I was on, my first few doctors were not good doctors. They would just shove pills down me and be like, oh, she's depressed, add more pills. Oh, she's manic again, add more pills. And those pills lowered my seizure threshold. So I started to have seizures. I'd have a seizure about once a month. They tested me for epilepsy. I wasn't epileptic. It was just all of the pills were messing up my brain chemistry and I was having seizures. And finally, I found a doctor. I'll call him Dr. Z. He's kind of well known where I'm from, so I'll keep his name a secret. And he started to treat me, and he realized, like, I don't think you're you're actually schizophrenic. You don't seem to show symptoms. And he kind of looked at me and he was like, you've lied to doctors, haven't you? And I was like, hmm? He was like, you don't have hallucinations. You don't. And I'm like, because I had lied to doctors before. They would ask me like, do you hear things? Do you see things? And I was like, well, I'm schizophrenic, so I'll just answer yes. I was sort of like, when I was labeled as schizophrenic, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just have to be all the crazy. But I've never had audio or visual hallucinations about anything. I would just lie to doctors to make it seem I was more crazy. Dr. Zernick, he kind of like slapped me back to reality. He's like, you don't have to be this way. You can still live a normal life with mental illness. So he ran some tests on me, and I was finally diagnosed as bipolar with severe social phobia. And he got me off all of the pills that were causing seizures and found one medication that worked for me, Seroquel, an antipsychotic, and I've just been taking the one pill since. I managed to graduate from high school. I graduated from Turning Points. I actually graduated like 6 months early, which was kind of an achievement. I would have gotten a goddamn scholarship from it, but yeah, like the state of Texas like took it away from me. It was weird. So I was able to graduate, which I didn't think was possible. And so I survived high school. And I could go on and talk about how I tried to go to community college and my jobs, but I'll just keep the video short and say, like, I survived my diagnosis and made it through high school. So what is it like being manic bipolar? I mean, it's just bipolar. I'm like bipolar type 2. I've had manic and depressed episodes. So to give you an idea of what a bipolar brain is like, think of it like this. I try to keep myself balanced most of the time, but sometimes I have manic episodes and I have depressed episodes. My manic episodes, I'm like Pinkie Pie. Very energetic, very hyper, bouncing all over the place. My brain won't shut up. It's like I have 5 Pinkie Pies going off at my head at once, all screaming and yelling and trying to get attention. And then when I'm depressed, I'm like Raven from Teen Titans. I sit in a corner, I sulk, I just want to read, life is hell, everyone should just give up, why bother putting effort into anything? And the medicine I'm on right now, Seroquel, sort of treats the manic parts. Basically, I've got the 5 Pinkie Pies jumping around going crazy, and the antipsychotic kills 4 of the Pinkie Pies, so I've just got the 1. And I used to be on antidepressants, and antidepressants would try to cheer Raven up so she's not sulking and mad and cutting herself all the time. But for me, antidepressants, they just added the weight on, like severely. At my heaviest, I was 180 pounds. Right now, I weigh in at about 150. I'm really short, so I don't carry my weight well. So, she'll be fun. This is my laptop camera. Usually when I film, I try to get my boobage in there. My boobage. So anyway, I was a really skinny kid. I was like a size 00 at 16, but then they put me on antidepressants and just it gave me boobs. I have one thing to thank antidepressants for: my boobs. So that's what my brain's kind of like. When I have a manic episode, it's like crazy Pinkie Pie all the time. And when I'm depressed, it's just, life is pointless, just kill yourself. But I keep pretty well balanced now. I don't have a lot of manic episodes anymore. I do have depressed episodes, because like I said, I'm not on an antidepressant. I kind of just try to deal with my depression. When it comes to depression, my motto is just deal with it. I try to find stuff in life to make me happy. As you can tell, my drug of choice is Dragon Quest. I try to use that as my antidepressants. That sorta has become my internet persona, is just crazy Dragon Quest girl. And my family has been great too. My dad has always supported me, and he's just been a wonderful, amazing dad. My mom is a separate video entirely. I'm afraid. I don't want to go into detail about that. But I always got my papa, and he always looks after me. He checks on me. He feeds me, too. I've moved out of the house this year. My mom and I got in a terrible fight, and so I moved out. But I moved out like 5 minutes away from my house. So he comes and brings me food and checks on me, and life has been good. I've been managing. For a long time, even after I graduated high school, and even though I knew I'm no longer schizophrenic, but I saw myself as mentally ill, and I thought mentally ill people don't deserve to be around normal people. I don't deserve to have a boyfriend. I don't deserve to have friends. I should just be happy being alone. And that was my mindset for a long time. But I've kind of recently realized that's not healthy. That is not healthy. My face is weird. So I've tried to pull myself out of the hermit mindset I've been in for a long time. I'm like, my only life goal is to just earn enough money to put a house on my family property and just live there. Just get a bunch of cats. That's my kitty Felicity in the background. Get a bunch of cats or a bunch of dogs and just live alone. But I've tried to be more positive. Dr. Z has definitely helped me try to live positively. And I kind of, my motto, I have mottos. Deal with it and roll with the punches. Like, life is going to throw all sorts of crazy stuff at you. And I found that in life, the best weapon is a good sense of humor. As long as you have a good sense of humor, you can survive. You can look back on the past and be like, well, that sucked, but, you know, that was kind of funny. So I just trying to live my life is what I'm doing. So, okay, good. This is going to go over 20 minutes. Yay! This is literally like the 50th attempt I've spent the last 2 hours trying to make this video. I wrote out a script, but then I was like, no. So I've been going mostly off key. This has been terrible. So anyway, that's the first video of Life Experience Points with JessicaAlbert13. I'm crazy. I'm bipolar. And I take Seroquel to treat my bipolar. But otherwise, I'm totally a perfectly normal person, mostly. I hate using the word perfectly. I'm a perfectly normal fangirl. My nose is stuffy. It's cold. It's cold. My apartment was really warm because there was sunlight, but now it's turned dark again. Okay, don't ramble. Under 20 minutes, so I'm afraid of the responses this video is gonna get. All the bullies are gonna crawl out of the woodwork and be like, "Oh, we haven't tortured you in a couple of years. Yay, more fodder." Anyways, that's life experience with JessicaAlbert13. I guess this is the part where people are like, rate the video, comment the video, subscribe. But just write a comment or an email. Don't subscribe to me. I don't do much. My YouTube doesn't do much. I keep up the Dragon Quest Devoted playlist, and that's about it. But I'll maybe make more of these if my self-confidence grows. So anyway, it's JessicaAlbert13. I'm so used to having my boobs in the frame that I'm like, I'm missing something. My boobage. I didn't do my hair. My hair is shit. Okay, that's the end of the video.